Let's fix up a pot of delicious goulash. And the best part, if you're vegan, you substitute one ingredient and you're good to go. It's time for a hearty meal because the temperature is supposed to drop into the mid 80s. In Florida, that's borderline cold front. I had some peppers out that are not that pretty anymore, so I got all these in, see they have blemishes. And what better thing to do than make a pot of goulash with it? Not only do I love eating goulash, I also love cooking it because once you're done chopping it all up and it goes in the slow cooker, you're done. So those are just the basic ingredients. Onions, there would be more onions, but I'm out, so I put in some dehydrated ones. And then there are the spices. Obviously, I put the recipe below. I do not put the potatoes in right away. That will go in later. Usually goulash is eaten with a side of, you can eat it with rice or egg noodles, not macaroni, just a nice egg noodle. Potatoes, bread. Bread is good, a fresh sourdough, because you can dip it in that sauce. Or spätzle. I should make a video on how to make spätzle. Now when it comes to meat, you don't have to put meat in. You can substitute, I don't know, beans maybe, but mushrooms for sure. If you have a good helping of mushrooms in there, it'll be great. And then you have a, well, not just vegetarian, but actually a vegan meal. This is a venison backstrap piece. It's been in the freezer for almost a year and it needs to come out. It won't be that tasty anymore if I make like cube steak with it or other little things, but when it simmers and all this goodness in there, it'll be fine. Now let me get chopping up. So everything's prepped. That took no time. I have to use the canned tomatoes because I don't have enough of the fresh ones. The potatoes will just stay. Yes, you can put all of this in at the same time, but I don't like my potatoes mushy. You also don't have to put potatoes in it. I think in the authentic ones, they're not even put in there, they're cooked on the side. I want to mention that you could make all this with dehydrated products. You can use dehydrated onions, like the ones I'm using here, although I had fresh in the fridge. You can use dehydrated bell pepper, you can use dehydrated garlic, dehydrated tomatoes even. If you put the stuff from a can or regular tomatoes on the dehydrator, it rehydrates just fine. You just add water. Now with meat, they may not be good dehydrated, but if you have some canned up or even some sausage in the freezer, you can use that. I didn't do the jalapenos the other day. If you watched my video on fermenting hot sauce, you seen there was this leftover stuff. It's this, and I was originally gonna freeze it in ice cube things so I can put it in chili and goulash, but decided to dehydrate it. It just takes up much less space. And that's that. And for the thing, I don't do any oil in cooking, but I have some frozen bacon grease and that should be good. Now, this is venison stock. I canned that. I'm not using this now, but I will use it in case there isn't enough liquid in it, which I don't foresee with that many vegetables. I also want to tell you this, once it's done, it freezes super well and you can can it up. You just have to make sure you have a pressure canner. This is not a water bath operation. So first now I'll saute up the meat. In goes the meat. And this just gets browned really nicely on the outside. It'll stick, and perhaps the Instant Pot will even shut off with an overheat warning, but I'll do it anyway. I like the sear function on this machine. It just makes some things easier, but really if you want to have a nice crunchy, crusty outside, you need to do it in a pan. This just doesn't get, whoa, foggy hot enough. It will do for now. Onions are next. I will just let them in there for a couple minutes. It would be nice if they were to caramelize a little, but that's not going to happen in the Instant Pot either, because There's just too much water coming out and it's not hot enough. Now you can make this three ways. You can put this on a, do it in a pan or a pot and then cook it there also. You can do it in a frying pan, this initial step, and then transfer it in any slow cooker you have. Or you can be lazy like me and use the Instant Pot saute function, which isn't ideal, but it's one pot. The other thing you can do is you can pressure cook it in here. Even if the meat is frozen, cut up but frozen, this would be done in 20 to 30 minutes depending on how much meat you put in there. Now that's pretty nifty. The only reason I'm not doing this is because I'm here and I like it slow cooked for a long time because it all kind of comes together to this nice meaty vegetable gravy kind of thing. And if you have mushrooms in it, then especially because they should be cooked thoroughly for a while. Things are coming along. It's time for the bell peppers. I do not bother sauteing them. And then in goes a can of tomatoes, if I can do that without splashing it up the walls. Very nice. And then I add my dehydrated ones. And the spices next. Time to take a look. I have all this in there and I still have it on saute. I want it to come up to a boil. And you see there isn't enough liquid possibly not at this point. It's not covering it. So by the time I put the potatoes in, I may not have enough liquid to where they can cook in it. However, the onions and the bell peppers and even the meat will shed some juices. So I'll just let this sit here for a little while. And if it does not release enough juices, then I will add the broth, the stock, or you can use water or tomato juice or whatever you have. But now I'm going to put these spices in. That's the caraway seeds, the paprika, some salt, and the hot stuff from the fermented hot sauce. It'll just blend in there. And of course, before I serve this, I will do the taste test and make sure there's everything else. Now, the only thing that's not in there now is the potatoes and the garlic. I'm a little weird about garlic. I love garlic and I want to taste it. If I put the garlic in there now, it will be so mellowed out by the time it's done in another 4 or 5 hours. That is kind of a waste. So I put that in later together with the potatoes. Okay, it's kind of came at a boil. See, there's the bubbles and see the juices are already coming up. Now is the time to put it on slow cook. I probably put it on a medium heat. Put the lid on and then check in after an hour to see how much juice I have. An hour into it on medium heat, it's bubbling nicely. It definitely generated more liquid than it was before, but it's not enough to cover all those potatoes. I will add them now because I have to run to town and get some stuff. There's another one. See, this isn't going to cook the potatoes. They can't cook in air right there. So I'm going to add the broth at this time. Now, if you make this vegan, add your vegetable broth or tomato sauce. My broths are all canned as concentrates. I always reduce them down to very little so that I don't have the big jar sitting around because it's so easy to just add some water. That's what I'm going to do here. It's almost covered. We'll put some water in it. And that should be good. So, leaving this sitting there on medium heat. And when I get back, dinner should be ready. Now, of course, it's been an hour now. If you would have pressure cooked that, you would already be done eating and have the dishes done. But I like the slow cooker way for my goulash. That's why it gets the slow cook. Added the garlic as well. That's a little earlier than I would like to, but I don't know how long it's going to take me in town, and that way I can now do the dishes already and be all done when I get back. It looks nice. Still a couple hours to go. This looks good. But because I'm known that I cannot leave a dish be a dish, I went out in the garden and I got some longevity spinach and I diced that really fine and some moringa leaves. We'll put that in. It'll cook down to nothing and they won't even know they had some healthy addition in it. I think whenever something is saucy and spiced really well, you can tell if you add some greenery that is good for you. There's no reason to go buy the spinach when you can grow this stuff in your backyard. Of course, if you live up north, you have other things like kale, collards, cabbage, whatever. That is longevity spinach. Grows like mad, especially come fall. It's really good, really easy, nice ground cover. And that is the wonderful, healthy moringa. They call it a superfood. I have a couple of videos on how to cook that up too. I taste tested it and I decided it needs more paprika. And maybe even some smoked paprika. That's the smoked one and that's the sweet one. I need a bigger opening on this thing. There isn't a whole lot coming out. All right, that should do it. Another taste test in an hour. All done, ready to eat. We're gonna plate this up with some different options. You can serve it with rice or with a nice piece of bread to soak up that yummy gravy that's in there now, or with egg noodles. Any noodle will do. Spätzle best. I didn't do it this time. Takes a lot of time. So you can eat it with no side at all. Oh, it has potatoes in it for a starch in the meal. Now this can really be made. It's the only vegan meal I can think of right now that is so tasty, and you can even have it gluten-free. It's so easy. It has so much flavor. It's easy to make. It's perfect. I do like it with a little bit of meat in it. I do like noodles and potatoes and rice. It doesn't matter to me. But this is a really good, easy meal. And remember, it can be made entirely with dehydrated goods. These are diced tomatoes, dehydrated. This is onion, bell pepper. I don't have a bigger jar right now. Garlic and all these things are in the spice cabinet anyway. You can make this whole meal with dehydrated things. If you add meat, you need fresh meat or frozen meat. But the rest, everything around it, comes right out of the pantry.